I'm Desmond Bertrand-Pitts, CEO of the Center for African American Military History, also known or better known as the Buffalo Soldier National Museum. And we're here today with Terran Watkins, a good friend of mine, my brother. He is the very first artist of the movement, which is a part of our building community pillar here at the Buffalo Soldier Museum. I'm really excited to have you and have this conversation about America UnMasked. I know it's been a work in progress. It was one of those things, I call myself a visionary and a creative. So I have this idea and I go with it. I know I wanted to do something that would build artists up, that would build a community that spoke to social justice and the movement that we were experiencing, and did not know how to start that. But when I thought about it some more, brought that to Terran's attention, and I was like, hey, I think I want you to be the first artist of the movement. So jumped right on the chance. For me, it's really, really personal because we've been friends for 16, 17 years. And I am a huge supporter of anything my friends want to do. And that's what I did with Artists of the Movement, because I know that Terran's gift is out of this world. And I wanted to make sure that I was supporting his gift. So excited to have you. I'll start with a brief bio. So Terran was born and raised in Houston, now residing in Denver, Colorado. For Terran, his move to Denver has helped him to grow in his gift of photography. The marches has his craft pushing him into activism. America UnMasked, what you guys will see and hear about today, speaks to the unjust world and power of the people. Excuse me, capturing the moments of the movement has changed his photography and his life. So there's a quote that he sent for us to use for the exhibit, and it says, "Passion usually starts before you can spell the word, and mine for photography is no exception. Many moments move so fast that most tend to miss them. I enjoy stopping motion by capturing a photo. Getting into the thick of the BLM protest seemed inevitable. With my dueling history of fringe religion and multifaceted hatred the world has for Black gay men, the emotional weight of every march I attended has changed me. Changed my art. I am now an activist photographer." How has it changed your life?
There's been a cataclysm of things happening to everybody throughout their life, but the majority of them get missed by the people. And I always thought that somebody should be capturing this moment. If it's not being captured, somebody's gonna forget. Somebody eventually will. The mind slips after a while. So the photo is forever.
Yeah.
You keep up with it, it's forever, and it keeps that moment. And I've always thought that moments need to be captured.
Okay. So how did you find photography, or did photography find you?
It kind of found me as a child. I was always a disposable in the house, and I would always fill it up with photos of the sky and anything, just ants, anything.
Yeah.
And I get in trouble for that, using all the film.
I see some heads shaking, so it must be a very true statement.
Yeah, but it seemed like there was something happening and somebody needed to snap it, and I had a tool for it. So it kind of found me and forced me into paying more attention to the world, everything. People watching for sure.
Yeah. So what was from going disposable cameras to purchasing whatever, I guess you can talk about the use now, what was that transition? Like, you wanted to take it from just something that you were doing as a kid into a passion project?
When I first visited Colorado in 2010, it was the most beautiful place I had seen compared to the only place I had seen.
Yeah.
Houston. And I got to Denver, and it was hills and trees and parks everywhere and mountains in the distance. It was so picturesque that getting a camera that could actually capture that properly without being a fuzzy bad picture I needed to do that. And when I moved to Colorado in 2012, that was one of the first purchases I made.
Nice. So what kind of camera do you have?
Oh, I use a Nikon D3400. I have a couple of lenses, but I usually use the 15 to 30 millimeter.
Chinese.
Right.
Like I have no idea what that means, but it sounds very fancy. Okay. So walk us through a random day. Say, for instance, you're walking in the mountains in Denver with your camera around your neck. I often see you with the camera. It's like an accessory,
Right.
almost. So I asked Terran earlier, I was like, so you did bring your camera, right? I was like, no, I didn't plan on working, so I didn't bring it. But, it's okay. So walk us through just a random day. You're walking with your camera. What kind of catches your eye, or like what would draw you into actually capturing a photo?
Usually it's a moment with people. It's usually people having moments that, yes, it's candid, and yes, it's their personal moments, but I usually see them being taught, being out, and especially walking down 16th Street Mall now in Denver. You see just everything happening, and there's moments that I feel that I want to have, so I'll take the camera out and snap. And it ends up spiraling me to do more and look at something else, the next thing, what's happening over here. It's kind of it's a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
You take one picture, then you take 10.
Yeah. So what is your favorite, this might be a hard question to answer, but your favorite thing to capture? So is it people in just random moments?
It's just people being.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about the world, is seeing people in their natural state.
Okay.
Not forcing them to pose for you.
Right.
Just take the picture.
Yeah. So is your photography more than just capturing those moments? Like, do you do weddings? Do you do birthdays?
But I intertwine that idea into my weddings.
Oh, okay.
The first wedding I did in Colorado, I think I took over 900 photos and gave them all to the bride. And she was like, I love everything. The photos you caught of my nephew sleeping in the corner, tired from dancing. Nobody will caught the picture. And those are just the things that I feel people want to see. Yeah. So take it.
Yeah. By the way, he did my wedding, so I can definitely attest to that. So there were some really candid moments and I had two photographers that day, so there were some really good moments that he captured that the quote unquote professional photographer of that day did not capture. So I can really speak to that experience. So America UnMasked. So the idea for framing the exhibit for me was really, really important because of the marches, attending the marches. And I know, and I saw the photos that you have been capturing during that time. And I was like, this has to be an exhibit. This people need to see, to see it on a different level. So I'll read the description of what America UnMasked entails. So it says, America UnMasked uncovers the veil of hypocrisy, racism, marginalization, and target on Black lives. The double punch of COVID-19 and yet another Black life taken away by law enforcement seemed to be all the public could take. Non-essential and fed up, Americans took to the streets in protest. Yes, it's about race, and finally, allies and advocates from all ethnic makeups now stand in solidarity. Without a doubt, we are all a part of this world. We must eat together, work together, share time and space from now until eternity. The unmasking shows that it takes tragedy to bring out camaraderie. America UnMasked shows the truth of injustice, the hate of a nation divided, the color of America, the spirit of togetherness, and a hope for a brighter tomorrow. That's heavy, and I know we worked on this together, but so I kind of want to hear from you, like what exactly is America UnMasked for you?
It was the outcry. It was the capturing of the outcry of everybody around me. It didn't seem to stop at black people. It didn't seem to stop at men or women. It just kept going, but there was an outcry of upset. Everybody was upset. the world was upset, and it felt like there was nowhere else to be but there in the midst of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy how something so negative has a gravitational pull.
Yeah. Yeah. So what exactly, so you kind of explained it to a certain degree, but what compelled you in that moment, just seeing that anger and that frustration and that desire for things to change, make you want to capture those
I
moments?
was upset too. Like I was at the breaking point of, I don't understand why I have to worry about, I have to have PTSD every time I see a cop car. As a Black man, why every time I see a cop walking down the street, I'm worried, is he coming for me?
Yeah.
And I don't do anything wrong. It doesn't make sense that at this point in time in 2020, then now 2021 still, that we have to be afraid of people who are there to serve us and protect us. And yeah, I needed to get my out as well. I made signs and had signs on my body as I was taking pictures. So it was just necessary.
Yeah, that's good. Necessary. So for you, it's more than just capturing or just the photography side of it. And we've had a lot of conversations, webinars, things of that sort around mental health and the African American community. So would you say for you, was that your way of healing? Was that your way of getting that emotion out?
That was a therapy session every time I went. I did not leave a protest without tears on my face, period. Because you can feel the energy of the crowd. Like you can feel the hurt of everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And I can actually speak to that experience because as soon as the marches started generating here in Houston, I wanted to be up. It's that question in your head is like, where were you? Like you're gonna think about that question. And for me, it was like, I have to be a part of it some type of way. And that was the first thing, that came about was the marches. But I think now is what's next? How do we continue those conversations? And that's what we do here at the museum. It's like, we got to think of creative ways to kind of keep the conversation going. Yeah.
It defaults back to the way.
Right. Yeah, yeah. We don't want to continue to repeat, the same thing over and over again. And I think for me, I think it's going to shift more now than it was before. I don't know what that feeling is, but I think, and it'll kind of bring us to the picture, the photo behind us is George Floyd, and what happened last year really did change the world. Because people are now thinking about it, they're talking about it, and it, like you said before, and something that I read, it's more than just us, our faces. When we think about civil rights and that movement, it's not just Black faces, not Black and brown faces, it's people of all ethnicities. And I think that's what's going to be the change.
Yeah, if the conversation continues, then something will change.
Yeah.
If people keep this at the forefront of their mind, keep this as the conversation, then there's incremental change every day.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a slow process, but we got to get there. So let's talk a little bit, and then when we get to the photos, we'll talk a little bit more. Let's talk about the marches. Let's talk about the things that you saw, the emotion, the outcry. Like, what was that experience for you?
It probably was the most emotional experience I've ever been in. As a cancer, I'm already emotional. So knowing I was there was heavy, but it was, like I said, it was a necessary heaviness.
Yeah.
It's still like I need to be here to express my feelings as well as capture everybody else's feelings. The crowd was so diverse. I didn't expect for the crowd to be that way. It was everybody, Black, brown, white, yellow, purple, didn't matter. Everybody was out there and everybody was in arms with each other. They linked up with each other. is the way the world should be. Normally, it shouldn't take
tragedy
of a man to be killed for us to be friends with each other. That's so simple.
So now that you say that, it makes me think about DC. So we were at the marches together in DC for the anniversary of the Million Man March. I can't remember what 57. And when you talked about people linking together, there was literally a moment where they were in the pool and they stretched across the pool, people arm in arm, LGBT flag. There's one of the photos that we'll see today. It was so diverse, and it was like a moment of, it was an experience that you thought you would never have. And so that solidarity and that emotion there, like you said, it shouldn't take tragedy to get to that moment. But when you're in it, it's like, wow, this feels good. This is what it's supposed to feel like. And so it's just a different world that we're in, that it takes this much tragedy, this type of event to happen to get to that moment. And so when we talk about change the world, that's the title of this one. So I'm going to give you this card so you can read that, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
So, change the world. A sentiment from his daughter Gianna. George Floyd's demise was a match that lit the fire under everyone who witnessed the injustice. The world has forever changed. The work starts now, but must continue to have everlasting effects.
Good words. So in capturing this photo, what's going through your mind? Like, you're standing there, the artist is in the process of working. What's going on?
I could see him putting his paint on the wall. When I drove by, I was going in the opposite direction actually, and I could see people congregating. Look at that. I see him on the wall, and he's up and down the ladder, picking a different up and down, and just standing there. And it was so heavy. It was very heavy. Him trying to get this beautiful mural out. I could feel his pain, and it needed to be captured. It had to be. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite photos ever.
And so it's one of my favorites. So that's why we wanted to make this one like the piece, and make it a statement piece, because nobody will ever forget this man's name or face. That's the man who changed the world. I mean, that statement, I mean, that's like, you gotta keep saying that statement, because out of the mouths of babes. And I stood there and looked at it, and this is the first time I'm hearing like your experience while you were taking the photo, and that's what I get from it. Like, he looks like me, even though we can't see his face, but the back of him, he looks like me, so I can tell that this for him is not just a piece of art or something that's on a wall, that he's in this, like he is in this art. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, he gave himself to the rest of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just heavy. So we're gonna do something a little different. We're going to take a walk around, so that everyone can see the photos, and we'll talk about each of them. And so I'm going to give you these so you can read them and then talk about it. Yeah, so what do we have here?
Piece is entitled Together Now. I captioned it, the lines of division were blurred at the beginning of the pandemic. Go figure. All people, regardless of skin color and acts of kindness, are just at the beginning of change. And the reason this caption is not just, but this pure helping of just somebody else, another human being who needs help.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter where we're from, the difference of our economical backgrounds. You need help. I got your back. And the rest of it just speaks to who's here. Like, we're all here. We're all done with injustice. I don't care how close I gotta be. I don't care what they stand for. I was across the street at the time. I was close.
Yeah. And so that's exactly what I see when I see this photo is there's women, there's white, there's black, there's different, you can even get down to the hair, dreads, and there's so many different things going on here.
There were so many times that I saw humanity at the marches, and that's what that is, humanity at its best.
All right, so we'll move.
This photo is entitled Solidarity. In times of tragedy and great injustice, it takes a big person to not only stand up, but be willing to lay it down and risk it for the sake of justice. This is what it takes to be an ally.
Yeah.
It was very telling that now our struggle is seen.
Yeah.
That's what this photo was about, is that you actually have to pay attention now. You can't ignore it because you saw it. Yeah. And there's been decades of ignorance, just pure ignorance of it. But now they're not ignorant.
Yeah.
Our white brothers are
they're feeling it. It's a different type of allyship. It's on the ground. It's feeling, they may never feel what we feel,
right,
but at least they're taking the steps to, get to that point, right, because they want to be a part of it.
Get closer to understanding at least.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's keep going.
This photo is entitled Power. The raised fist adopted by oppressed groups throughout history is now one of the strongest symbols used today to represent the power of the Black culture. The support and solidarity it represents holds the weight of centuries of oppression and killing of Black men and women. And this was in Aurora at the Elijah McClain, Justice for Elijah McClain March. The Aurora Police Department killed him in August of 2019, walking home from work with a mask on. He was autistic, but that was before the mask mandate. So I'm not sure what they thought, but still, you killed him?
Yeah.
For wearing a mask? Yeah. It didn't make sense. It just still doesn't make sense. Yeah. It'll never make sense. But this beautiful Black man had his fist up for 30 minutes. He was just standing there, and it was.
And I think for me, what I get this is like you said. Now that you say that it was 30 minutes that he had his hand up, that pain will never be the pain of Elijah McClain.
Right.
So if I got to be there and sweat and struggle and feel the pain and get some tear gas, that type of thing, you want to show your appreciation for what they did. I mean, it's power.
It's power. And
so we'll keep going.
This photo is entitled Colors of Equality. The March on Washington was the melting pot of the world. Every race, creed, gender, and orientation showed up for the 57th anniversary of the Million Man March. The fight for equality is colorless. And DC was a bigger version of Denver's melting pot. Right? I thought it was a lot of white and brown and everybody in Denver, but DC showed out.
DC was a different level. Yeah, absolutely. But what I was really glad to see was exactly what we see there. Black LGBTQ lives matter as well. And at this moment, the way you look did not matter.
Right.
It didn't matter where you came from, what your orientation was. Right. what you had for breakfast or what you were going to have for dinner. Everybody was there in that moment because they support Black lives, the movement, and what it stood for. It didn't matter what anybody looked like.
The lines of marginalization were blurred.
Right.
We all were the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, that's
great.
the human race. I mean, we're all humans. You think it would be, that simple, but it's not. All right, let's keep going.
This is hashtag say her name. This is the entire Black Lives Movement. Black woman will not be dismissed, disrespected, or forgotten. For the Black woman killed before Sandra Bland up until Breonna Taylor, we say Black. We were having a moment of silence in Civic Center in Denver, and in the crowd of everyone else, there were two Black girls there, and like you could just feel the weight of their pain out of everybody else.
Standing here looking at it, and I've seen these photos so many times since it's been here at the museum. But just standing there looking at it, you get that emotion from it.
Right.
It's like when he was, doing his work of change the world.
It's tired. We're all tired,
Yeah.
and it shows.
It shows. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving.
This one I named after the Childish Gambino song, This Is America, because it's upside down.
Yeah.
Denver residents lay on the pavement for 8 minutes and 46 seconds with their hands behind their backs, just as George Floyd was forced to until his death at the need of law enforcement. The ideals of democracy, protect and serve, are flipped upside down, and so is the state of our nation. This Indian man walked around like that all day to have a quiet statement about how he felt this world is. And I sympathized with him completely.
Yeah.
It's backwards, it's wrong, it's not the way it's supposed to be. It can't be because it was built on a system that was wrong.
Yeah, it was built against us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In so many ways, I think we all have moments where we feel exactly like he felt. And for the past year, this is exactly what we feel. And this is exactly what the country seems to us. Yeah, we're gonna leave that. We're gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that.
This is called Simple Plan. Everyone deserves privilege regardless of race, ethnic background, socioeconomic statuses. Realizing your privilege and deciding to do something in support of others is what separates you from them. And you and them are capital.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference. If you can give a little bit of your privilege that you carry in the world, that you walk around with, to somebody who does not have it, everybody does that. Nobody is without. Nobody is being on the end of injustice. That song is awesome.
Yeah.
I wouldn't told her.
This is definitely one of my favorites. Because I have quite a bit of colleagues who are, Caucasian, who are white, and we've had few conversations about privilege and what that actually means, and the fact that a lot of them don't realize that they have that privilege.
Rich bank of privilege everywhere you go.
Yeah, absolutely. In the workplace, in the grocery store,
in the
mall, in the drive-through. I mean, from birth to to death, it's just, it's a concept that I think that definitely needs to continue to be a conversation. Getting them to realize that there is a privilege. How do we fix that? Where do we go from here? How do we
be a multicultural Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Once a week.
A family reunion. All right. Almost there.
This is battleground. Flash bombs were answered with fireworks, tear gas extinguished with traffic cones and water bottles. there's a real fight in our country greater than an international threat, us versus us, the people versus the police. And yeah, this was a wild day. I was there with a good friend of mine, and that was his first protest, my third. And it was 4 days after George Floyd was murdered. And yeah, Friday night it got kind of crazy, Saturday night it got kind of crazy, this was Sunday afternoon. And it was inevitable for it to get crazy again because of the crowd, because you could feel the energy of the people. And yeah, I definitely was far away on this one. That was across the street, that was the flash bomb thrown back at the police.
Oh, okay.
That someone picked up and threw back at them. So it was a constant fight. And it was, I'm trying to think of, it felt like a video game. It didn't even feel real.
Yeah.
It was like watching something on television or on the game. It's like, this is actually
happening. Yeah.
Like, this is, yes, there is our country right now.
Yeah. I think this examples of what's left to do outside of, fighting back in a violent way. That's what people were feeling at this moment. We talked about it. We told you that we, like you said, Zoom meetings, those type of things. That's all been done. I mean, we when I was in high school, we've had conversations with the police, to kind of get away from a lot of this stuff, but it's not working. So what do we do now? We're still dying. Yeah.
They didn't just escalate to this point
overnight. Right.
It's been built up.
Yeah.
It built up.
Yeah, it built up. All right.
All righty. Jeepers Creepers.
That's one of my favorite names.
A bird's eye view for the Aurora Police Department on the day he took to the streets for Elijah McClain. Their presence was felt as ominous as it always does to a Black man. Why are you watching me? They didn't even have the gall to be on the ground with us. They had to be perched.
Yeah.
To be away because they were afraid.
Yeah.
As much as they got guns and everything, they're the ones who are afraid because they know they did wrong.
Yeah.
And that day, it was hot that day. It was definitely hot that day. And it seemed like they were on every building. Really, you looked around and it's like, I was watching. It's weird to be watched by them. It's normal and weird at the same time.
Yeah. Interesting. It's like, I don't even have any words for that. So we'll go back. So now that we've taken this walkthrough, it's brought up like a lot of emotions that I first had when we were putting this together. Just walking through like the stages of it, and even though a lot of these places had nothing to do with Houston, I feel like I was there. Maybe it's because I've participated in some of the marches, or maybe it's just because I feel just like everybody else at the marches. Yeah, absolutely. I'm lost for words. So I'm gonna keep going. So I kind of just want to hear from you, like, what's next? What's going on now that we've talked about America UnMasked, great exhibit. What's next for you? Like, what's your plans for your gift, your photography?
Honestly, now that you blessed me, helped me get my name out there, I know that business. But I want to continue this avenue of it, because if it's not me, who's it gonna be?
Yeah.
I want to keep going to wherever I can to go. There's something happening, I'm on a plane. Luckily, the job I have in Denver helps me work that out. And so I'm going to keep being a photo activist, as it were.
So what does that mean for you in terms of activism and photography? Are they one and the same for you? Like you can't do one without the other now, or how?
They're separate still. I can still do weddings, do everything, but I feel that this is going to be my more impactful work.
Okay.
And the passion comes from not just the photography, my history, but the Blackness of my history.
Right.
And I want to be there. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I'll stay going if I can.
Yeah. So would there be another instance of, let's say for instance, it's not dealing with Black lives or anything like that. What other moments in history would interest you? Like what else would you want to capture that's still a part of some type of movement, but not necessarily the Black lives?
That's a good question.
What else speaks to you?
Well, as we talked before, people. I
Okay.
love my people. So, and my people are all people.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I can be the photographer for everybody's moment still, like
That's a good motto, by the way.
yeah, all event.
Photographer for everybody's moment.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up on that note. How do people contact you? How do we get in touch with you? Instagram, email, all of that.
Instagram is my photo book, basically. So Marshall Clips on Instagram. And I have a website being built currently. It'll be marshallclips.com. I've got the domain name and have somebody working on the website now. And it'll help me get,
Yeah.
help me a lot.
Get you out there.
And
So any questions from the audience? I want to give you an opportunity to chat with Terran about photos, about, I don't know, maybe you have an event coming up, whatever you want to ask or talk about.
So now that these are on exhibit, what's the future plan for the pictures?
So actually they're on auction for the museum. So it's an online auction. Our night at the museum is in July. And so that'll be like the final push for the auction. And then the proceeds, of course, most of the proceeds will go back to the artist. Yeah. So he'll get his check.
To me, it meant that I was a part of history. I was a part of the change, at least the beginning of the change. And that's heavy. That's heavy to me. That makes me feel like
So we have a replica in the shop.
shown, the replica still being shown in the museum.
Oh, no, so these are going back to the museum.
Okay.
So there's a wall, Artists of the Movement wall in the museum. So these are going to go back down there for the exhibit. Oh, like the replica, we don't have, yeah, we haven't started selling those. Yeah. We have to confer with the artists and all so that we can replicate them. Yeah.
And all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, these are all up for auction as well. So you can purchase the actual canvas for it.
Oh, so the reprints will be paper.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I have no questions.
Dad, you don't want to say anything?
I'm just elated.
Good deal.
I'm touched that this is your voice in photography. And I think that your expression, your way of taking photos, it's different.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to be different.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's stern.
Good. That's good.
It's stern.
He and I talked, well, we called you when he first came. So Terran's dad is here in the audience, and he came to visit the exhibit when we first put it up. And just watching him see his son's gift come to light was enough for me. Like, I don't even have to do this, or I didn't have to do, I don't even care if he saw it at that moment. Just knowing that he was proud in that moment was enough for me. It was like, okay, so job well done. We did it. You know,
Very proud.
yeah. All right. Any questions from, okay.
So we have a couple questions from Facebook. The first question is from Otis Stanley. Who were the artists that influenced you?
Great question.
So it's crazy because I'm not influenced by specifically photographers. I'm influenced by painters. So Basquiat, John Michael Basquiat is one of my favorite. His use of color and his abstract is what I try to create when I take a picture. That's why they're different. That's what I like, because it's different. Like Basquiat's art is different.
I agree, I see that color.
Yeah.
Another question. People want to say this is an amazing art gallery. That's from Frankie Williams Landers.
Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you.
And Desmond Bertrand-Pitts says, I'm so proud of this young man. This was a success. This was such a necessary part of the movement. So
Thank you, brother-in-law.
so, and I also shared your information in our Zoom. We had a couple of people that were asking for a copy.
Thank you.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, that's it. Thank y'all for viewing and watching and coming.